I am Justin Ellis. This is the Topwater Podcast, and I want to welcome you guys back to another episode. And it's also Father's Day. We're recording, let me just mess up just right off the bat. You gotta love just mixing up words. But yeah, it's Father's Day, and to all you fathers out there, happy Father's Day. You didn't pull out. Way to go. Cheers. I called my dad and, wished him a happy Father's Day and talked to him about bass fishing because, obviously my dad, you've seen him on this podcast actually once before, Larry Ellis. If you guys haven't checked that episode out, you should probably go back and check that episode out. It's a unique insight and a unique look into a time and era whenever none of us really kind of understand that sort of time and era to where there wasn't this sort of sportsman-like fishing and there wasn't sportsman hunting. You hunt and you fish because that was your dinner. That was what you ate. That is the source of food that you had. So whether or not you went out and caught a mess of panfish or you caught, catfish or you caught, a bass or a few bass or, whatever it was, a drum, they just keep everything and just eat it, because that was the food supply that they had, especially with my dad growing up in a very rural area in Kansas. You don't have much options per se. It's you live to hunt, you hunt to live, sort of thing. You live to fish, you fish to live. That's the reason why you did those things. That's the reason why they went fishing. So catch and release wasn't really a thing back then, which is really kind of crazy to me, kind of thinking about it. But moving forward, I almost think like, oh, I see the reason for that. I see the reason for having the skill set of being able to bass fish, even though it's gotten to this like sportsman-like phase in fishing. But at its core, it is about meat acquisition. It's about being able to provide a meal for yourself, and that's what fishing is. And honestly, some of the best fish I have ever eaten is catfish that I've caught. Because primarily when I eat fish that I do catch, it's usually catfish. I usually don't eat too much bass unless it's like out of a pond or, it's usually not too big or depending on where it is. Like generally, like with Springfield Lake, I don't keep any of the bass out. Matter of fact, I don't keep any of the fish out of there. I've eaten fish out of there a couple of times. I didn't taste anything odd or off or different, but that doesn't mean that there's not heavy metals, that there's not, pollution, that's there's not direct runoff coming in to that system, and then you're eating it. And if you're eating a certain amount, that has a sort of like building effect into your body. The toxic pollution that's in the water. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's good for the fishery, but I also don't necessarily think it's like, it's not bad. Obviously it's still running. It's still up and running. You can still go out there and catch bass. Like I went out there and I was hammering some, like, I caught, especially like right at the end to where I started like actually going down the canal, like not the canal, but when I started going down where the James River actually runs through Springfield Lake and hitting the spots, hitting the little grass spots to where the bass actually tucked up into. I was getting bit left and right. Just, it was beautiful. It was mayhem. But it didn't help me out in this month's tournament, which kind of sucks, But, we'll have to see the way the cookies crumble, but I'm pretty sure this guy is not going to be finishing very, very high. When I say I'm not going to be finishing very high, I mean I'm not going to be finishing. I made the bottom 5. Let's just put it like that. I'll discuss more the tournament results in the next podcast that I do with next week, because then it'll actually all be official. This week, it's wrapping it up. This week's is wrapping it up, and I wrapped up a morning session, and that's really all I really could have gotten out there and do. And I think for me, in reality, in order to be able to compete with some of these other guys, I have to change my tactics. I have to change my tactics from this putting multiple bass in the boat and putting big bass in the boat. So now I have to really kind of gear myself towards catching big bass and not catching a limit. So I was worried about catching a limit coming into this, but let me get off this subject, because this is all stuff that I really just kind of want to save for the next podcast. I want to save that for next week, because then everything's going to be official. Everything's going to be just, this is what it is. This is the breakdown. Next week is going to be the breakdown of the tournament. So the breakdown of my strategy, the breakdown of what I was going into it with, whether or not the strategy that I went into it was working or not, what I needed to do different, all that sort of stuff. We'll get into that sort of realm next week. This week, it's really just more about thinking ahead. This week is more planning ahead, because since this is the last day of the tournament, yes, I could be out there right now and just like trying, and like never, like, let's, you have to be out there, but also at the same time, I do have obligations. I have obligations to sit down and do this podcast. I have an obligation to sit down and do a podcast with my buddy. I have other things I need to do at the house, and there's just not time for it. So I only had a limited amount of time. Once that time was up, the tournament's not over at this point, but the tournament's over for me. So, which it is what it is. And we'll get more into it in next week's episode rather than this week's episode. But this week's episode is really going to be more geared towards finding bass on a new lake, because I think one of the things I need to do is I need to make sure that I have options, especially going forward into these tournaments. I mean, having Springfield Lake, that's a good option. And a lot of people don't think it is, but it really kind of is a good option. It's a great option to be able to limit out. And you have the chance to actually catch a fairly decent sized bass out of that lake. So that's also in the cards. But the only problem is that lake, you're not going to catch the big bass that you think about. Like, honestly, the times that I catch the biggest bass honestly are in cold water on Springfield Lake. I don't catch very big bass in warm water. When it's dog days of summer, I really don't catch that many big bass. I really don't. I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's just I'm not fishing the right areas, or possibly the bass. What I think happens is the bass actually move from their spawning areas to their winter haunts. Well, not winter haunts, but their summer haunts, which are basically their winter haunts, because the lake is so small that the winter and summer haunts, like the big bass, tend to move off deep. I think that's what it is, because I notice you do get bit a lot shallow. There's a lot of bass shallow, but there's not a lot of big bass shallow. It's a lot of small bass, so I really don't catch any like giants or any big bass over. I really don't catch any bass really over 2-3 pounds shallow at Springfield Lake. So if you want to go out and you want to have a fun time catching fish, hey, it's a great place. It really is. It's a great place to just get out there. You can chuck and wind. You can flip stuff. You can really hone your skills. You really can, and you just have to. You have to understand that it does come with. You're really honing your skills with the shallow water. That's really what it is. You're honing your skills with your shallow water fishing, your flipping techniques. You're really just kind of honing those skills over and over and over and over again. And I think in reality, that place isn't necessarily going to win me any sort of tournament. I don't believe that place is necessarily going to win me whatever I want. So I have to expand. I have to expand out to a different lake. I have to think differently other than what I'm doing now, because moving forward to the next tournament, I do need to find new places to be able to fish. I can't just be restricted to a small area, even if I can move up and down a river. The problem with Springfield Lake is it just gets so crowded. It gets so crowded to where it's hard to fish. It really does get to that point to where it's like, it's frustrating to try to fish in a place to where there's so many people there. They just flood into the water. They just pack in there, and they're just and the thing is like you get everybody from the hardcore anglers to the people who have. This is the first time they're in a kayak. This is the first time they're on the water. Like, that's the people that are there. So there's a very, very wide range, and it's hard to be able to find big bass. And I think I have a couple spots there located to where I think I could catch big bass, but I just haven't been able to produce them in those areas. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's just so repetitive. And I also think it's on the days that I go. I think I go on the worst days to go fishing on Springfield Lake. Really. Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those days are probably the worst days to ever go fishing on Springfield Lake. Monday is a cool down day. Like, you don't want to go fishing on Monday, you want to let it cool. It's kind of like letting a roast sit, or anytime you smoke some meat out on the grill or in a smoker or something like that, you want to let it rest. You want to give it time to be able to solidify itself. And that's kind of my thought process behind just that. I don't want to fish Monday, because you know what? I feel like between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it kind of peaks out Saturday to Sunday, and Sunday is kind of a dip. And I think Sunday, after it dips, you just kind of have to leave the lake alone. And I think Monday is a very bad day to go fishing, in my opinion, just because it's directly after the weekend. Now, Tuesday may be a very, very different story. I think Tuesday you can actually go out there and, be fairly productive, in my opinion. You never really know, because, you may have to use a little bit slower techniques. It might be just kind of like starting back, okay, where are the fish, what are they doing. They may not be lockjawed at that point, especially if you have weekend tournaments and you have a lot of tournaments onto your lake. Then, of course, you're going to have times to where your lake's going to get so pressured and so many fish are going to get caught that they're not going to want to bite. Because, I mean, shit, unless it's real, unless they can almost tell it's real, they're not going to bite. Or it's a reaction bite. Like, that's usually what it is. It's like, I'm going to eat it. And then that's what you get. And I think that's the type of bite that I was on. I was on that sort of reaction bite. And, which, for you guys fishing out at Springfield Lake, I think there's two different methods. There's the weightless method, and there's the half ounce. So, if around the grass, there's two different things that you can do. You can either scurry something across it, or you can kind of gently move something across it, around the edges. So if you have a grass line like this, and it comes out and it comes around so it makes a point, you can do one of three things. Either you can have something that makes noise and has some sort of vibration, some sort of commotion. Of course, all baits are going to have commotion. It's going to displace water, of course. But you can come around it. And if they're in a pattern to where they sit on the edges of that, looking out and hitting things as they come out, or if they're cruising. So early in the mornings, they'll not be in the grass. So you'll see them hitting stuff on the top of the water like a foot or two away from the grass. And what that's signifying is the bass are in a mood to feed, and the water hasn't hit that temperature to where they need to embed themselves into the grass, into the shade, because obviously they're trying to get oxygen. Also, another thing I figured out, and this may be an anecdotal evidence, if you pitch into a clump and you pull out a whole bunch of just sludge, I was not catching bass off there. If you pull out and it's clean, those were the places that I was catching bass. So those edges to where you're finding clean grass. So I think clean grass in Springfield Lake is actually a very, very big thing to look for. Where are those places to where the grass is getting cleaner? That's one of them. That's a big one. I think that's a really, really big one. And it's like algae. So if you pitch in there with some sort of punch rig, and today I was using a Guggen Squad Trench Hog Black and Blue Flake pegged with a half-ounce sinker. And normally I would sit here and tell you that using a half-ounce sinker on Springfield Lake is not a good idea. I would sit here and tell you that it's not. But I think what happens is that front end kind of buries in, but you still have the tails that are sitting out here. So how I was catching them was they were picking it up and then eating it. And then I would set the hook. So what you have to do is, they weren't eating it on the fall. So they were eating it while I was sitting there dead sticked. So it has to be sticking out of the mud or whatever it is. And usually when I tossed in there, it was in to cover itself. So I don't think it actually necessarily punched through the mud because you have whole root systems and all that sort of stuff. So it probably went down and sat down on the root system of the plants that were of the vegetation that was right around there. Now, to make this perfectly clear, the places that I was getting bit with the with my punch rig was on places that were along the James River. So you would have the James River that came into Springfield Lake, and then obviously it opens up into Springfield Lake, but still you have kind of that current, which you have this weird current because most of the time the wind is pushing to the opposite side of which way the current's coming in. So you have the wind pushing this way, and you have the current pushing this way. So you get this sort of swirl effect. Right? I mean, it just... I'm not sure really what's happening down in the water, but I do know water's pushing in to the opposite way that the water's actually pushing in. So whenever that... I don't know really the effects of that, and specifically, I don't know the way to catch them out deep into that. But what I was seeing was jagged mud lines. I was seeing jagged mud lines to where mud was being pushed and pulled in different directions, and you're seeing mud being pulled out and then pushed back in. And I think what was happening is as the current was coming in, is pulling mud particles out, and the wind obviously on the top pushed the top layer of water this way, so it caused this sort of effect. So what you would have is this sort of like serrated look as far as like a mud pattern. And maybe if you went along with that with a jerkbait, and that's what I was thinking, is take a jerkbait and cast along those areas to where you have like mud and no mud, and take a jerk. But the problem is I don't have a jerkbait that is flashy enough for this sort of scenario. I have pretty much all my jerkbaits are like winter jerkbaits, to where there's no algae, there's no nothing, it's clear water. We've got really good visibility, and when you have really good visibility, hey, guess what? Throw that jerkbait. And that's the type of jerkbaits I have. I think I do have a chartreuse jerkbait, but I don't know how much that's really going to work. I mean, it's bright. I don't know if that's... But I haven't really had too much good luck on like chartreuse jerk or chartreuse baits inside of Springfield Lake. So I just think that color they've gotten really acclimated to, and I think that's something that they're just kind of sensitive to, that they just see that color and they're like, you know. I mean, I really feel like when they see that color, they're like, just like, And it also depends on where it is, because it might just be like a natural sort of color. If it's not in a natural pattern that they're really used to, they just may just let it go. You never know. But what I really want to talk about is this right here. Is the fact that what I want to do is I want to start fishing Fellows Lake. And the reason why I want to start fishing Fellows Lake is because I want to open up my options. You know, I want to open up, you know, what is actually possible for me to actually be doing, you know. That's really what I want to do, is to figure out. Now, I got to figure out whether or not I can access this back half of Fellows Lake. So, on Fellows Lake, there is a couple of different places you can put in. And obviously the best one is the marina, and to go there. And I actually had a fairly decent sized bass come up and eat one of my underspins, but it came up and ate it out of the top of a bush. So there was a submerged bush, and it came up and just and it was pretty decent size. It was probably like a 14, 15 inch bass. So I want to start fishing Fellows Lake because I think the bass here are going to be a little bit bigger. But I'm not sure in some of the places that I want to actually try to fish, I can actually get to or I can actually access. Because what I want to do is to get up inside of quit that. Why are you doing that? Yeah, so they filled it in. It looks like they filled it in. It looks like there's an area that I thought I would be able to get through. But it looks like it's all 100% filled in. I don't think I'm actually supposed to get onto that side. Which that's kind of screwed up. There's a place on because one of the things is I wouldn't mind actually getting up into this little delta area and fishing this little delta area of Fellows Lake and kind of fishing that area first. Like, that's the area that I wanted to fish first. But I don't think I'm going to be able to fish that. Just because if it's 100% dammed up, and especially now, I don't think it'd be as big of an issue if I wasn't like worried about, fishing the KBF tour. But since I'm trying to fish the challenge series, if this is dammed up, then I really can't do anything about that. I don't know why that's all dammed up like that. I don't know if I can actually put in on that side. I'm going to actually have to talk to them. Maybe go up to the marina and talk to them about that and see if I can't put in up at the Delta. Because I feel like there would be a great place. Because there's a few places I'm looking at this where on satellite feed, it's where I'm like, this is my type of fishing right here. This is what's up. Because you have all sorts of different creeks running in, or basically creek arms. It's the same thing. It's all the little sack, but basically you have these little chutes running into Fellows Lake right here, and from what I could tell from the satellite view, you got some fairly decent grass growing in here. I'm seeing a clump here. There's some decent clumps there. There's some more clumps there. I'm seeing some pretty decent clumps. That's pretty good stuff. I mean, I like that. Oh, yes, I do. And you got pinch points. I like pinch points. I'm seeing some high water marks. I'm seeing some flood marks. Oh, yeah. So, what I'm seeing is the little sack runs in, and as it starts to veer off to its left, you get this scarring. And it looks like scarring. But basically, what it is, it's where the water got high enough to where it just kind of stripped the land. So, you have this nice little sandbar through here. That's probably some like bushes and some other stuff. Some tree. No, because I'm seeing trees here. It's probably like some grass and some other stuff. But yeah, that looks like a big old sandbar back in there. So I mean, I would love to get back in here up towards this spot because I feel like that's where I shine. I feel like that's where my expertise really kind of helps is that shallow water fishing. But the problem is I don't know if I have access to it. If I don't have access to it, I can't fish it. You know, if it's a man blocked access, which I don't know why they blocked it. Maybe they dropped tubes down there. They possibly could have. I'm seeing a brush pile where the I bet you they dropped tubes down in there. I bet you that's what they did. Made some sort of drain port, but they made it to where it's dammed up to where you can't actually get through it. I don't know why they did that. I really don't know why they did that. That seems so crazy to me. Or, actually, I think I might know why they did that. Because they identified this as probably a spawning flat. Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? This would be perfect for bass to come up there and spawn. So this might be a spawning flat. And the reason why this is cut off to everybody else and they don't have any way to launch back in here is because they don't want people coming up in here and dropping in. But I don't see any other way to get in there. You would literally have to come off of private land. Yeah. I don't see any way to get back up in there. And it might just be to protect the spawn and protect spawners. So that way, whenever that happens, you don't have fishermen going in there and catching fish. So, I mean, I don't like that they do that, but, you know, you just kind of have to take it for what it is. But that might be an area to check out. That might be a high percentage spot. I might have to, like, go there and fish that spot. But when I was there last weekend, I noticed there was a lot of cars that were parked off onto that area, and there was people fishing that area. So it may just be a really high-pressure spot. You never know. Seeing some stuff coming off to the edge. I don't know. I think they put drainage. I think they put drainage ways underneath there, but they made it to where you don't have boat access to it. Which that kind of sucks, because I'd like to have boat access to it. Because like I said, that's kind of my jam. That's kind of my thing, is to fish the areas to where they it's shallow areas. I'm a shallow water fisherman. So far, I just struggle so hard when it comes to offshore fishing and it comes to deep water. Like, it could be offshore, but if it's shallow, shallow water, that's kind of what I know is that shallow water, bank fishing, that sort of thing. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of whatever though. But when I go to like Navionics, it shows that there should be some sort of water flow in between there. But it also shows that there should be some sort of break. Like it doesn't connect. So it shows that there should be some sort of water flow, but it doesn't connect, So I don't know. We'll have to We'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. But I think where I'm probably gonna fish is I'm probably gonna go back into the second like main offshoot. So you have like, it's almost like a main lake that runs east to west. And then you have what would that be? That would be southeast. No, it'd be southeast. Because that's almost at 45. That right there is almost at 45. So I would almost say that's southeast to northeast. So you have one, which would be the main branch that runs, of course, east to west. And then you have one that runs southeast to northwest. I think that's the way that they're running. But what I'm trying to identify, the areas that I'm trying to identify is the areas that would probably likely hold bass, which I'm thinking summertime, I'm thinking points. I'm thinking humps, I'm thinking things that are at least close to deeper water. So like right here. So there's an area that I've identified, which I'm going to have to, which is on that secondary offshoot, which we're going to overlay the satellite map. Let's go map. Oh. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go here. Let's go. All right, let's see. Let's go. No, I don't want to go map. Harbor, marinas, no. Shop, no. Repairs, no. I was just in, fellas, like. What was I looking for? I was looking for something specific. Oh, yeah. Layering. I was looking for layering. Layer. That's not what I was looking for either. Which was no, let's go back to Missouri. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. Oh. Those little ponds and stuff. The little pounds and stuff. The little pounds and stuff. See, categories. I don't want categories. Keeps doing that to me. I'm trying to put a satellite image over the top of it so I have some reference points. Harbor Master. Maybe it's Harbor Master. No. Next time, sections. See, all this stuff. Navionics, get your shit together. Cancel. There we go. Map options. Satellite. need to go to Navionics again. But this will make it actually easier to pinpoint on my Onyx maps as they actually have the satellite view, because then I could actually look at the terrain and be able to go, okay, well, this is close to this, and I can actually map it out where it's actually at. Because I have I don't have Navionics, but I do have Onyx. And unfortunately, Onyx Maps doesn't have the Navionics sort of, depth finding or anything like that. Onyx Maps obviously is a hunting map, and which you might be thinking, like, why don't you just have Navionics? Which is a very good, good point. I'm just using the resources that I have, which Navionics is so far kind of the only thing that I have at this point. So I'm seeing that this is a little bit below there. All right, so we're going to go here. We're going to go going. That's probably close to it. Let me look. Oh, yeah. So that 30-foot drop off, that sort of point. So what I'm looking at right now is the lake is coming down like this. Okay? And you have the kind of the center point running like this, and it kind of creates a little U. There's this little like boop, because obviously it starts to come up at that point. And there's a couple of different places that I do want to look at fishing, because what it creates is a hump. Creates a little hump. So you go from, it looks like 21 foot to 11 foot. So somewhere in there, which I may actually just go sonar. Oh yeah, that's even better. Actually, that's really good. So now I can actually tell where I actually need to probably fish. Man, that's a nice little flat right there. Like a nice little 21-foot flat. Go out there and throw a crankbait, like one of those deep diving crankbaits. That's where I need to throw it. Right there. Now, nice drop off. Okay, so let me see. This is probably here. So if we go here, probably like right here. Add waypoint. Right about here. Let's go 30 foot. Point. Well, no, I don't want to put a point, because it's not a point. It's more like an indentation. But 30 foot. We'll put prospect. Prospect. That's not how you spell prospect. Oh, well. 30 foot. Fishing. That's what we'll go 30 foot fishing. That's what we'll do. And kind of needs to try to line up that shore more. That's close. Right about there. Which this doesn't need to be exactly. This is just kind of a drop-off marker. Then that's really what it is. It's just a drop-off. Like, this is where this is kind of a general area. And then, let's see. Here. That little indentation. So we're going to go shape area. We're going to go here to here to here. Save that. It's close. To that point, and we'll just kind of move it over here. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to create like an almost like area of effect, essentially. Like in trying to map out where everything kind of is. And just trying to like figure out what all is so that right there. Which that's just kind of a general area. That's a general flat. Which that flat, don't get me wrong, like it's probably a very, very good place to fish. But I think that in itself is an important spot, because if you find the corners on that flat, you'll probably find schooling fish around those corners. So that's really what I'm kind of looking for. I'm kind of looking for areas that I can actually target big bass. And I think a lot of these drop-offs, so we go from 21 to 11, and it takes a bit to get back in here to get back to kind of your shallower points. So let's see, we're going to go to the back of this creek. Obviously, the back of the creek, I can tell there's a lot of grass from the satellite view. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of grass back there. So I'm seeing grass patches. So I'm going to actually hit waypoint. I'm going to make another waypoint right here. So that's a point. I'm actually going to save that. Waypoint right here. Save that. We're going to go waypoint right here. So there's 3 spots that I've actually kind of identified right in a row. I think right here is going to be pretty decent. Here's another point. I'm going to put a waypoint on that. So I'm just going to come back here and like fish this cove. What I'm probably going to, even though I think I should fish my way back, there's kind of another point right there. So these are all places that I'm identifying. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify places to that fish might just hold to, or fish might try to relate to. And what it is like points and little humps and little coves and little dips and whatever have you, So there's kind of a little, so we're going to add another point right here. Oh, yeah. That's what's up. But, all right. Well, I'm glad that you guys have kind of gone along with me. I didn't really go through and explain too much. Essentially, what I was trying to do is I was trying to identify the places to where bass may have a chance to relate to and where they may actually just hold to because of wind patterns and structure and something like that. And especially like the places that I was finding, they may be a little bit better in the afternoon because they are on a western bank, but they are a little bit more of a sloping edge instead of just drop off. I don't know. I seem to have better on sloping edges than I do have on drop-offs. It seems like whenever I try to fish drop-offs, I tend to just swing and swing and swing and swing and swing and miss and miss. Actually, there's no missing. And then there's no swinging. Actually, it's more like cast, and then that's what it is. So, whatever. But that's what it is. It is what it is. And hopefully this next tournament, I can actually do a little bit better than I did this tournament. I kind of feel like I had higher expectations for myself than the results that I'm actually getting, and which obviously next week I'll actually be going over them with you. So that'd be cool, and it'll be great to get that broken down. So you guys out there, I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are having fun. I hope you guys are getting out there and getting after it. It's that time of year to where the dog days of summer are here, and they're going to be getting into that real sort of dog days of summer fishing. So it's, I don't know. I've got some new baits. I got some new baits coming in, and I'm going to be excited to unbox those for you guys, and hopefully I can wait and be patient so that way I can just open them up in front of you guys and have some fun with that sort of stuff. But it should be interesting. This next tournament should be interesting. I'm hoping that I can figure something out on Fellows League, because I need to do better than what I did this last tournament. I need to get bigger bass than what I've done this last tournament. I need to actually put some quality into the boat. So what I'm hoping is that this research and this sort of trying to plan things out a little bit better may actually work out into my favor a little bit more than just trying to go out to Fellows Lake and junk fish for one day and then catching an 8-pound, channel cat, Which, don't get me wrong, catching an 8-pound channel cat was fun. It was really fun, but, does not help me in a bass tournament. And going out to Springfield Lake and catching a whole bunch of 12, 13-inch fish, that's fun too. It's a blast. It's a blast to go out there and have fun. But you know what? Guess what? It's not helping. It's not helping. I need to do better on those tournaments. Tournaments, because this is the first one I've entered in, and we'll have the results tonight. Well, I'll have the results tonight. So we'll sit down and discuss the results next weekend, and we'll kind of just break down the strategy that I was coming into the tournament with, and where I went wrong or where I went right. And, we'll just kind of dive into it next weekend. So, that's what we're going to be getting into the next episode. So, obviously, you guys, hopefully you guys are, like I said, be safe out there. Time's crazy. Just just do what you keep doing. Fish hard, get out there and talk to people, humanize people as much as you can. If you can take somebody that's never been fishing, take them fishing. Introduce them to the outdoors. Get them involved. The more people, the merrier, in my opinion. Some people have sort of a famine sort of mindset when it comes down to our sport and what we're doing. And what I really just kind of think is these are skills that people need to know. This is something that I think people need to understand. And if they experience nature and they experience fishing, they experience that stuff, maybe they might have a little bit more appreciation for the outdoors and appreciation for nature. And the reason why it needs to be pristine, and the reason why we need to keep our waters clean, the reason why we need to keep our forests clean, and the reason why we need to maintain the world around us. I mean, that's what it is, So, introduce someone to fishing. So, you guys have been great. This has been fun, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Father's Day. Cheers. Peace.